Good evening. My name is C.G. Henderson. I am the president of the Chicago Women's Golf Club. We are celebrating 80 years this year. We're very excited about that. But before I introduce the panelists, I want to give a round of applause again to our chairman, Ron Norris, who worked very diligently in putting this together. Today, you are in store for a wonderful conversation around diversity and inclusion and also the economic development in golf. So to begin, I would like to start with introducing our all-star panelists. I believe when I call your names, you guys will take your seat. First, because she is a current Emeritus Chicago Women. So I'm going to start with her. Miljan Aiken. She is an avid and competitive golfer who's been playing since she was 17 years old. She's been a member of the Chicago Women's Golf Club for 45 years. She's a founding member of the Ebony Ladies Golf League, a member of Women's Jackson Park Golf Club since 1980, and a member of South Shore Ladies Golf League. Most importantly, she's a Korean War veteran, United States Air Force, and she received the Ambassador for Peace Proclamation from the Republic of Korea, Mrs. Miljan Aiken. The next person I'm introducing, I spoke with him today and say, look, I have to cut your resume in half because we'll be here all night. That's Mr. Craig Bowen. Craig Bowen is a head coach of men's golf at Chicago State University. He's a 30-year veteran of the golf industry that includes working as a promotion manager for Titleist and FootJoy. He served as associate producer for the documentary Uneven Fairways and worked as chief researcher for the book Uneven Lies. He served as the executive director of the National Minority College Golf Scholarship Fund, and he is a recognized contributor to the continued growth of African American golf and the World Golf Hall of Fame. Mr. Craig Bowen. Up next, my rock star, Mr. Harry Gilliam. He's a local instructor and advocate for junior golfers for over 30 years, mentoring juniors and helping them achieve their best potential on the course with swing analysis and skill lessons, and in life with stories about personal experiences that taught him very valuable lessons. Mr. Harry Gilliam. Mr. Pete McDaniel. He's the contributing editor and senior writer for Golf Digest and Golf World Magazine for 19 years, combined sports editor of the Hendersonville Times News for 13 years, where he earned several North Carolina Press Association writing awards. He's the lead writer for the exhibit Honoring the Legacy, a tribute to African Americans in golf, the co-author of the late Earl Woods best-selling book, Training a Tiger, co-author of Tiger Woods' all-time best-selling golf instruction book, How I Play Golf, and wrote the critically acclaimed Uneven Lies, the heroic story of African Americans in golf. He's the co-writer and co-producer of the documentary Uneven Fairways, and his honors include Publisher of the Year, inductee into the African American Golfers Hall of Fame and the National Black Golf Hall of Fame. He's the recipient of the Harlem YMCA's Black Achiever and Industry Award and the Denzel Washington Community Service Award presented by the White Plains, New York Boys and Girls Club. Mr. Pete McDaniel. Next we have Mr. Mark Rolfing. Mark Rolfing is the NBC and Golf Channel analyst. He has spent more than 30 years promoting the sport. USA Today have named Rolfing's golf's best on-course commentator. Amid a broadcast career traveling to golf's most renowned venues, Hometown Passion motivated establishment of Chicago Parks Golf Alliance. Rolfing concurs with industry executives that South Shore and Jackson Park exemplify the most diversity of ethnicity, gender, and age on any golf course nationwide. Along with his wife, Debbie, who's sitting here in the front row, the Mark and Debbie Rolfing Charitable Foundation has cared for 28 foster children since 1999. Last week, the PGA of America honored the Rolfings with the 2007 Distinguished Service Award, recognized those who advance humanitarian interests through golf. His leadership and service to the Hawaii State Junior Golf Association have also earned him induction into the Hawaii Golf Hall of Fame. Mr. Mark Rolfing. And lastly, I present to you your moderator for this evening, Mr. Matt McGill. Matt McGill is an American media personality. Currently, he is a consultant in media, politics, and business development. He also provides national perspective on politics and current events to CNN, HLN, and Fox News. With 12 years, I tore that off. For 12 years, he's hosted the Matt McGill Morning Show on radio station WVON in Chicago. In 2011, he became the first urban radio host to interview President Barack Obama at the White House in the Oval Office. He began his broadcasting career at radio station KCRW in Santa Monica, California, where he hosted a weekly show called Finally Friday. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Matt McGill.
Yeah, I go by Matt McGill, unemployed radio personality these days. That kind of hits the nail on the head. For everybody who is standing up, they wanted me to let you know there are some seats available here in the front. So if you'd like to, please come in. Also, thanks for everybody for coming out. Obviously, this is a big deal. This is our community, it's our neighborhood, and people who get involved and show up at outings like this are the ones who are informed and the ones who are going to benefit from this incredible experience that we are about to embark on. You know all of our panelists right now. I'm going to ask them a few questions just to talk about how important golf, the game of golf, has been to their lives and what we are looking forward to in bringing this wonderful golf experience to the south side of Chicago and to Jackson Park, this park that has touched all of our lives. If you live on the south side of Chicago, you've been in Jackson Park, through Jackson Park, around Jackson Park. This park, South Shore, and this community is a big part of our lives, and it's going to stay that way. This is all about inclusion. Now, I have to say, yes. Now, when you golf, now you guys see Ms. Miljohn and Ken, when you golf all your life, this is what you call golf swag right here. You can be a senior citizen. You don't need help getting up. You walk right up here with your purse and everything, your hat, and you have golf swag. And I'm gonna say that to you because now what we see happening in sports, especially in football, and I know you guys are all aware of CTE and what that has been doing to some of our football heroes. This is a sport that our young people can get involved in and play for a very long time and not have some of the unfortunate negative consequences that we've seen hit some of our superstar football players that many of us love. And I say that because I had the opportunity to know Dave Duerson and what an incredible human being he was. He was a great football player. He was even a more incredible human being. All right, so, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm going to start with you, Ms. Miljohn, and actually go right down the line. Golf. Anybody who golfs, they are addicted to it. It consumes their life. My brother golfs every opportunity he gets. Just in your words, what has this game meant to you and your life personally? No, you stand, sit down, sit down.
Okay. Well, okay. It has been everything to me because I started playing when I was 17, and I'm at 85 right now, and I still
85 with swag.
and I still love the game right now as much as the first day I played. I play about 3 times a week now, but at one time I wouldn't even play a 9-hole course. But now I do play 9-hole courses, but I walk. And at one time they did not have carts at Jackson Park, and you had to walk. So I'm used to walking, and I loved it.
There you go.
Well, golf for me has pretty much been my lifeline. I started working at Glen Woody when I was 12 years old. And my father had the foresight of talking to Ron Scoopson saying, I want my son to work in the golf business, and I want you to show him the right way. And goodness, that was 38 years ago. And so golf has afforded me to travel around the world, play golf with a couple U.S. presidents. Have met some wonderful, wonderful people that have been lifelong friends in golf and business and in life. And, you know, for me, it's allowed me to follow in some good people's footsteps, the First Flighters, a group of African-American golfers, Teddy Thomas, Horace Howard, Reggie Brown, Leroy Brown, all of names which I'm sure many of you know in this room as being educators who have made a difference in thousands of students' lives. And I wear the term coach as a result of all those guys. And I'd like to have my golfers from Chicago State University please stand up and be acknowledged right now. So that's what golf has done for me, is to help impair the good nature and the positive role model which I had growing up, and share that wealth with hundreds of young people.
Okay. And Kerry?
Golf. It's interesting. I played golf for now 55 years. I started when I was 13, and there was something that just intrigued me more than anything. I used to study watching a golf tournament. What it did, it enhanced my studies. I went to school, I went to college. Whenever I had a problem with some type of experiment I was doing, I'd go to the golf course, think about it. And it stabilized me where I could work out the problem and come back to it. If I was angry, it was good too. Redirect the aggressions. So golf to me has been a lifelong thing. When I played it in the Army, it afforded me the opportunity to also see the world. I can only say thank God for golf, for me, because no telling where I would have been or what I would have done.
All right. Pete?
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank God for being here, and thank God for each and every one of you. Golf has been my life, and I take that very seriously, and I mean that in that I was somewhat of a ham when I was a kid, somewhat of a cut-up, might have even been called a miscreant, because I like to hustle pool and hustle people, and you know, I kind of lived on the other side of the right side of the lane. I started caddying, I started shagging golf balls when I was 11 years old. And for those of you who don't know what a shag boy is someone who stands out in the practice range with a little bag, or we used to do that. They don't even have them anymore. And the golfer would hit golf balls at you, boom, 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 for about 30 minutes as he warmed up. At the end of that session, in 90-degree heat back in North Carolina, I might have made $1. but that was the best dollar that I ever made in my life. At the end of a caddying round, I never will forget the player who was the member at Biltmore Forest Country Club. Pulled out one of these, a money clip. I'd never seen a money clip before. I'd seen a Detroit bankroll. But I was so impressed by that money clip that I said, you know, one of these days I'm gonna have one of those. I would ride through Biltmore Forest and I'd see the huge mansions. And I'd say, one of these days I'm gonna have one of those. Golf opened up a whole new world for me. A whole new world of endless possibilities. I played high school golf, I played a little bit of college golf, and it, combined with my writing skills, made me who I am today. And that's why I'm here, trying to shed a little bit of information so that you guys can get behind this great project that's getting ready to transform this world. I firmly believe that. Mark?
All right. Mark?
Golf is simply the greatest game in the world, and the people that play the game are the finest people on this earth. And I firmly believe it's because that's what the game demands of the people that play it. And I will forever, and for the last 5 decades really through golf, be thankful for the people that I have met through the game. And in this case, as I look out at all of you who I only met a short year and a half ago, I never would have met this community and been introduced to this group if it weren't for the game of golf. And when I came here today, I can honestly tell you it felt almost like I was coming home, and that's because of the game of golf.
How do we go about promoting golf, especially to young people? I know when I was in high school, and I'm sure many of people here today, you know, basketball and football are the high-profile sports, especially in the African-American community. You know, you're a high school student, that's all the girls will go to the basketball game, go to the football game. How do we get golf to be that attractive to young African-Americans so they come out? And considering Tiger Woods and the impact that he's had on the game, are we starting to see some of that progress?
I say start them young. The younger the better. Just get them used to swinging the club and keep it up.
Yeah.
One of the ways you can stimulate and get kids playing golf, it's happening as we go, it's happening now as we go on. You look at a lot of sports figures are playing golf, football players, basketball players. They got to do something, and golf has been something, a lot have been drawn to golf. When kids see that, then they want to get into it. It's all in who's presenting the game to them. And as I always look at another thing too, Art Linkletter used to say a thing like, kids are people too. And treat them like people. You know, kids are yelled at a lot. And then you got to find that spot that stimulates them to want to do better, improve themselves. What you're going after is self-motivation. And if they're motivated and they motivate themselves, they get better. And that's what we have to do as far as getting more kids into golf. You cannot, everybody's not a football player, basketball player, you know, but you challenge them with the thought of golf.
Pete, you go around the country, you report on golf. Tiger, 20 years ago, hit the ground running, Masters, blew everybody away, and we anticipated what that moment was going to mean for inner city African Americans. What have you seen in covering the game for the last 20 years?
I saw a transition from very few golfers among junior golfers. And the reason for that is because all of us who played years ago got old. And we didn't, and that's a fact, and we did not hand off the baton to our young people. We kept our love for the game among our little foursome or our little gangsome or whatever we played, instead of putting a golf club in the hand of our kids and mentoring them. That's where we failed. You know, you look at Tiger came along and he really infused a lot of energy in the game as far as every young person, not just minorities. Heck, I had grandmothers calling me watching him on TV. You know, they couldn't wait until he was on TV on the weekend so that they could watch him play. That kind of enthusiasm sparked a false expectation. And that's the reality of it. I mean, he came along, he did his job, created all the excitement. There was a huge burst of energy. You had a lot of kids talking about, I want to be like Tiger Woods. Well, what happened? I'll tell you later.
I think, Matt, to me, it's pretty simple why golf did not become a mainstream sport as quickly as basketball or baseball or football. It's very simple. It's two words: accessibility and exclusion. And when you, thank you. When you look at the challenges facing the game right now, the three that are across the board are that typically the game costs too much, it takes too long, and it's too darn hard to play. But if you go past those three, none of them can overcome no access or exclusion. Those are the single most important things that have held golf back from becoming a mainstream sport.
Mark, I want you to talk about that a little bit more, because I know the focal points for this effort is partnership, participation, scholarship, careers. You know, this past summer we had a young lady, Sloane Stevens, win the U.S. Open. Her coach, Kamal Murray, from the Chicago area. I know you coach golf as well. Can this sport allow for other careers outside of just being on the golf course?
All you have to do is look at me. My Maui Open record really doesn't go too far when it stacks up against somebody like Tiger Woods, but every single avenue that did open up to me, and pretty much everything that I have done throughout my career has been related to the game of golf, the people I met, and more importantly, I think the skills that I learned and developed through the game of golf. That is really what opened every single door for me.
And Pete, what you do too as an analyst, careers in broadcasting, people who know the game of golf can have a career in writing about it and reporting about the game as well.
That was once the case. Here's the second part of the story. I told you I'd tell you later. When I attended my first Masters in 1993, I was the only black face in the media center. 1993. Tiger Woods comes along, and all of a sudden, I show up at the Masters, and you've got a couple dozen, faces of people who look like me, covering the game. In 1965 through 1973, you had what we would refer to as the heyday of black golfers on the PGA Tour. You would show up at a tour stop, and you'd have maybe 12. Today, you have one. When Tiger comes back, you'll have two. On the LPGA, you have three. Now, African Americans and other minorities who cover the game of golf, who write about the game of golf, from the heyday of Tiger's early years, when you had maybe a couple dozen, Now you have 0. 0. And you know why? Because we don't demand anything. We had the greatest golfer in the world for almost 20 years. That gave us a lot of cachet. We didn't use it. We didn't teach our kids how to play. We didn't teach them about the opportunities that he helped open up for us. So the failure is ours. The failure is ours. Now we're backtracking. Now we have an opportunity to start all over again. With this very opportunity that's being presented today, a model that will open up golf to inner city youths. And with the help of people like Mark, Craig, and people on this panel, and the JPGA, there's an opportunity now to teach them about their history. And I want to dispel that great lie right here in this room. I heard that I came to Chicago and there were some people who didn't think that we played golf.
Yeah.
Excuse my French, but where the hell are they?
Coach,
This is one of 6 books that dispel that lie. Not only do we play golf, we have always played golf. We have been a driving force in the industry, and it's up to us to become a driving force again.
well, Pete, tell me about the book. That book is Uneven Lies, right? And Pete, I wanted to ask you, who are the gentlemen on the cover there?
Yeah, I want to see that.
Oh, on the cover,
Joe Lewis is on.
the great Joe Lewis, Teddy Rhodes, whose daughter, Peggy White, is right here. Bill Spiller. Who's the other guy?
Leonard Reed.
Who's Leonard Reed? Tell him who Leonard Reed is.
Leonard Reed was Joe Lewis's Guy Friday valet. Traveled along with Joe Lewis for years. And there's a funny little story that occurred with Leonard Reed and Joe Lewis. They were in New Orleans, and Joe was going to be fighting that evening. And if you look at the cover of the book, Leonard Reed's a very fair-skinned African-American gentleman. And so they were trying to get to City Park Golf Course, and Joe and Leonard Reed were standing there waiting for a cab, and no cabs would stop. And so they kind of looked at each other and said, what the heck is going on? And so finally a cab stopped, and the cab driver had a heavy southern drawl. He says, Mister, I can take you, but I can't take the black guy. Right? And they said, wait a minute, I'm a black guy too. And the guy turned and he says, well, don't you know who this is? And he was like, doesn't matter. I can't ride no coloreds, is the quote. Okay? And so Joe and Leonard Reed kind of looked at each other. And so the cab took Leonard Reed, and Joe Lewis had to take a separate cab to go to the same place. And so when we talk about our history in this game, boy, we've got some stories. I was the first person of color to step foot in the building at Titleist FootJoy Worldwide in 1991. And everybody wasn't a fan. And so we fought and scraped, and I saw the kind of money they were giving away to colleges, Arizona State, LSU. And I asked Wally, I said, Wally, wait a minute, man. I said, these schools have got a lot of money to engulf into their golf programs. I said, what about Hampton and Southern and Texas Southern and Prairie View? Well, they didn't know that we had golf teams. And so we started a program that basically financed, you know, if a golf team's got a budget of $3,900 for equipment, that doesn't go very far. You know, you've got 15, 16 tournaments that you play. Well, golf balls cost money. So we started a program that gave away 72 dozen golf balls to each school, 2 pairs of shoes, gloves, and then discounted clubs and apparel. And that program is still in place today. But even bigger part of that is that Wally saw the wherewithal, and he had a master plan when he brought me in. I didn't know what the master plan was until Tiger turned pro, and the asking price was $100 million and all the millions of dollars for all the other companies, but we got him for $4 million. And so what we did is that we flooded the African American golf community, junior golf programs. This was before First Tee was even a thought. And we took care of the Bill Dickeys of the world. We took care of the Detroit Golf. We took care of the Western Golf Association, all these junior golf tournaments, the Midwest District. And I became the Pied Piper of developing junior golf throughout the country. And so that really helps now that I'm a college golf coach because I know where to go recruit. And so with that in mind, we really worked to develop this network. We sponsored golfers. And so with the rise and the unfortunate repositioning of Tiger in the golf world per se, it's time for us as a community to step back up and really engage our students to understand the value in golf. George Gervin, the Iceman, told me the first time I played golf with him, he said, Biggin, he says, you know, golf saved my life. And I said, well, George, how did golf save your life? He says, well, he said, instead of going out and George is in recovery, he said, man, golf keeps me competitive and gives me something to do so that I'm not out doing the wrong thing. And so there's a lot of stories in golf that are very prevalent with that premise in mind. And so as we talk about saving athletes and everything, let's talk about saving our children.
Yes.
Right.
All right.
You know, you mentioned George Gervin. There must be something about basketball players and golf because you mentioned George Gervin. Everybody knows Michael Jordan plays basketball. Steph Curry, they say, is one of the best golfers out there. Charles Barkley. Oh, never mind. Scratch that last one. But Coach, I did want to ask you this. Obviously, you're responsible for recruiting young men to come to Chicago State to play golf. What do you hope the impact of this effort, building this golf course, has on your future? And I don't mean this personally, but on recruiting trips for coaches in the future, college coaches in the future.
Well, first of all, it'll give us a great place to practice in the wintertime.
Right.
You know, Chicago golf in February doesn't help me. And so what we have to do is develop a practice center that our players can stay sharp. We're kind of piecemealing it right now, but if I've got a place where kids can go and chip and putt and practice and not have on 13 layers of clothes, but even more so at a venue that is world class, that's going to be the ultimate recruiting tool for me. If I can take them out here on the lakefront, heck, I already bring my players right now to the putting and chipping green over here at South Shore. And so we spend a considerable amount of time out here. And so when we talk about accessibility, I want my players to be visible to the young golfers, to say, hey, I want to be like these golfers right here. And, you know, for me, golf, I attended Southern University. And consequently, I was inducted into the Southern University Athletic Hall of Fame just on Saturday. And so I'm riding the wave of that right now. If I hadn't had a place to play golf, I wouldn't be sitting here. LSU laughed at me when I came over to try out for the team. The coach literally laughed in my face. And then he showed up at Cog Hill a few years later for the U.S. Amateur. And I said, hey, man, you remember me? And he kind of looked kind of perplexed. I said, yeah, I tried to try out for your golf team. Welcome to my course. Have a good round. But so it's certainly, you know, we're a big major city. And for me, I'm glad to be back at home. And, you know, I want to have a pool of golfers that can, I call it palling around, because we're not supposed to have relationships with the high school golfers from the college level. So it'll give us a great venue to pal around with these young folks and show them the right way.
And hopefully it means more college scholarships for young men and women in our community. May not go pro or ever make it onto the circuit, but they'll save their parents a lot of money.
Hey, their parents will get a
Going through
raise, and more importantly, if not Chicago, there's a great network of HBCUs that have golf programs. And for me, I'm biased. I'm the president of the Black Golf Coaches Association. And so if it's not Chicago State, then it's Alcorn State, or it's Alabama State, or it's Southern or Grambling. All these colleges have got full scholarships. And, you know, for the female golfers especially, we struggle to find young female golfers that can get it airborne. And if you can break 90 as a young female golfer, you can go to college for free.
Yeah.
So for all you folks that have daughters out there, my phone number is...
Now, you mentioned HBCUs twice. I'm just going to let you know before you leave here, Dr. Carol Adams is going to remind you you didn't mention Fisk.
Fisk has got a brand new golf program, absolutely.
Mark, since we're talking about scholarship, can you tell everybody here about the Evans Scholar?
Well, first of all, Chicago is simply the greatest golf town in America, and it deserves to have the greatest youth programs and youth golf initiatives of any town in America. And we've talked about some physical initiatives that may occur here, but the single most important thing of all this, to me, is getting this golf community together. I can't tell everybody how important it is, I think, to get a group together like we have tonight. And the more that we can do this, the better. Because if you look at the other sports that we talked about, George Gervin or Michael Jordan or the other sports, the star athletes who are the face of those sports also reflect the face of America. And one of the problems that I believe golf is facing is that the stars of the game do not reflect the face of America. Yet when I sit here and look out at this group, this is the face of America right here. I'm looking at it. And to have everybody come together as a golf community is just about the single most important thing I think that we can do here. And it really is going to create visibility that Pete was talking about that we simply haven't had. So let's keep it going.
All right. Well said. Well said, no doubt about it. We talk about careers and scholarships and participation. Obviously, we want to make sure that this golf course, this world-class golf course that's going to come to the south side of Chicago, is being utilized. And how do we message out to people in the community that this is an effort of inclusion, that we want the residents of the south side of Chicago and the west side of Chicago as well to participate, take classes, take lessons. Miljan, you said they have to start early at a young age.
Right.
Golf,
Yeah.
and anybody comment on this? Golf is a sport where you really have to start at a young age. It's harder to get it at an older age, but if you're an athlete, you're an athlete. I assume that you get it. How do we ensure that young people are getting the message that this is not only a game that they can have a career and make a living off of, but that the Jackson Park Golf Association wants them to be a part of this facility that's coming our way?
One of the things that we have to realize is that, where's Juan Espejo? Juan? Can you stand up, Juan, please? Oh, you are? Juan Espejo, along with some other folks, Mark Lowry and myself, spearheaded a program with Chicago Public Schools going back to the late 90s. And half those names that they mentioned of young men and young women that received golf scholarships were all products of that program. And so we really have to re-engage, and I say that very strongly, re-engage the Chicago Public Schools to embrace our efforts here, along with the Park District, so that we can make, what did the president say, make golf great again? And we have to, I'm going to say it one more time, re-engage CPS to realize the value of what golf brings to the table.
But isn't that the challenge? Because basketball, all you need is a basketball and a hoop to play. Baseball, you just need a ball and a bat. And I know, Mark, you said the biggest problem is exclusion. That's why we don't have more African Americans. How do we overcome some of those other challenges with equipment, tee time, space, and opportunity? Obviously, this golf course is going to help out in a lot of that. I got a feeling when you said CPS, I'm just thinking about Springfield and budgets, man. I don't know if that's going to happen. So I guess at the end of the day, we are all ambassadors in this room of this sport, and the only way that it's going to happen is when everybody leaves here, they're committed to making sure that people in our community know about this game, know about this sport, and that they are going to have a place where they can learn about it and hopefully be a part of this incredible game. If that happens, then we are all winners, and hopefully we will see more African Americans involved. Mark, I had asked you about the Evans Scholarship. I know because a lot of people talk about caddies, but you guys have a scholarship program going for young men that are caddies. Is that right?
Yeah, it's really the Western Golf Association, in conjunction with the Chicago Park District, that instituted the Jackson Park Caddy program this summer, which was a just absolutely wonderful program. And it was really because everybody did not want to wait until there were some physical changes made to the golf facilities here. The time to begin the programs is now, because if we don't invest in our kids, they're the future of our game and the future of our community. And I truly believe that one of the ways we can do it is through these caddy programs that just are an incredible tool to provide an experience for these young people that's going to stay with them forever and ever. And the Evans Scholar group is a massively powerful group. It has sent almost 10,000 kids to college. It can do the same thing for this community. It's never really been given a chance. And all we really have to do is say, we want this to happen. We can see the benefit of doing this. And once we start saying this on a regular basis, it doesn't have to be the loudest voice. It just has to be a consistent voice and a consistent message. And that's why all the ambassadors sitting out here tonight are the most important part of this program, really. And that's what you are here, ambassadors delivering a message.
That's another link to the history of the game. Because before you had your first tees, before you had your junior golf programs, all of the minority players, especially the black players, came from the caddy ranks. That's how they learned how to play golf. That's how they learned the valuable lessons of the game. And that is why a big piece of this entire project will be an exhibit on the history of African Americans in golf, right here in Chicago. Now, there's a permanent exhibit that we had a hand in at the World Golf Hall of Fame Museum in St. Augustine. But what better place to teach our people, everyone as a matter of fact, about the history of African Americans in golf than Chicago? And a part of that, my vision, is to have a monument that would depict the historic figures in the game of golf as far as blacks are concerned. And that would include Barack Obama, who was the first golfer at one time. Tiger Woods, arguably the greatest player in the world. Charlie Sifford, who was a barrier breaker. Ted Rhodes, who might have been the greatest black golfer of all time. Your own hometown heroes, Walter Speedy. If you want to know about his history, he initiated a lawsuit against the Parks and Recreation Department right here in Chicago to open up public facilities to local golfers. These stories need to be told. They need to be a part of this project. And that is my baby, and that's what I'm really concerned with. If you teach your children the history, something that they can take pride in, then they can carry that toward the future, inspired by those who came before them. And so that is definitely a piece of this entire project that needs to be stressed. It's very important for these kids. If you want to learn more about the world-renowned sculptor who I partner with, his name is Mario Chiodo. You can go to the Chicago Women's website and learn about him, a man who has great passion for the underserved and the underprivileged, who's done a series of monuments titled Remember Them, on very famous people, Martin Luther King, Mahatma Gandhi, you name it, he's done it. And he wants to do this for the city of Chicago.
Miljan.
Okay. I'd still say that we should start them young because I've been working with the Bobolinks, Chicago Women's Juniors, since 1954. And we've had Tiger Woods come in and do a clinic. We also had Calvin Pete to come and do a clinic. And that just got them excited, and we should do something like that.
Pete, you know, name some of the greats that have played. Miljan mentioned Calvin Pete, of course, and I know a lot of the younger generation, everybody knows Tiger Woods. What are some of the other names, historic names in golf, African Americans that have played this game and had incredible careers?
Oh my gosh! If you could begin with Teddy Rhodes, who was arguably, as I said, the greatest African American player of all time. Won over 150 golf tournaments, many of them right here in the city of Chicago. He was known for his dress. He was a great dresser, but he was even a greater golfer. Great wedge player, absolutely. Right here in Chicago, you had Robert Pat Ball, who won a golf tournament right here in Chicago in 1930. It was the first African American to play in the Western Amateur in the 1930s. The Chicago Women's Golf Organization spawned a lot of great players, female players, who you never have heard of, I guess. Talk about Calvin Pete. I was commissioned to write his autobiography. And that's a book that I intend to finish eventually. But Calvin Pete was known as the straightest golfer on tour, the straightest driving golfer on tour for 11 consecutive years, 12 consecutive years, yes, 12 consecutive years. Heck of a golfer, self-taught. Pete Brown won a major championship, not a major championship, but a PGA Tour event in 1963. After turning pro or finally becoming accepted as a PGA Tour member. Of course, you all know Charlie Sifford, who is the Jackie Robinson of golf, or as he's referred to. But you have just George Johnson. Gigi won a PGA Tour event. Nate Starks, Bobby Strobel, you name them. You know all these guys, Mark. You played with some of them, right?
Charlie
Dewey
Owens.
Lewis.
I played with a man named Charlie Owens, and he was sort of a microcosm, I would say, of minorities in general, because he was not taught really by any instructor or anyone how to play the game. And Charlie grew up playing the game cross-handed. He actually played with his left hand low. Now, all of you that are golfers know just how difficult that is, not on a chip, but on a swing. And he actually won a tournament on the senior PGA Tour, and it was purely because of Charlie's determination. And of all the African American players, Charlie comes to mind almost first for me in terms of determination. He was an amazing player.
And you had the Thorpe brothers, Jim Thorpe, Chuck Thorpe, Chester Thorpe, all these guys from Roxborough, North Carolina, my home state. James Black, a guy you never heard of, was a legend on the Chitlin circuit. And those of you who don't know what the Chitlin circuit was, you know what Chitlins are. So it was the Black Golf Tour, which was the only tour that blacks could play on until 1961, when the color barrier was finally broken on the PGA Tour by one Charlie Sifford. So you had all of these guys who might have been tremendous players. And here's a little known fact too. Charlie Sifford, guess how old he was when he finally got his tour card? 38 years old. And for 12 consecutive years, Charlie Sifford, who started on the PGA Tour at 38 years old, kept his PGA Tour card up until it was time for him to go to the senior tour. That's the kind of player he was. Won twice on the PGA Tour. Heck of a player. Just think how great he might have been had he had an opportunity to play as a young man on the PGA Tour. This is history that our young people need to know. You know, Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods wasn't the first great black player. Michael Jordan wasn't the first, basketball player who took up the game and was successful at it.
Another little known fact is that Mr. Charlie Owens, who recently just passed away, is also the inventor of the long putter. And all of the talk about with the USGA about the anchoring band and everything else, that was created because of Charlie Owens.
Guys, before I wrap it up and bring Ron back up, just want you all to make a comment about the game of golf, the inner city, not just here in Chicago, but the impact that you would like to see golf have around this country in terms of career opportunities and getting more young people involved in participating in this incredible game. Then anybody can start.
Would you say it again?
Yeah, just how you would like to see this game have an impact, not just on the inner city of Chicago, but around the country in terms of providing career opportunities and getting young people involved so that they can participate in the game so that they can reach some of those career opportunities. I would imagine there are other career opportunities behind the scenes that we don't know about in golf, and people need to be aware of those opportunities because everybody thinks it's just about the greens and the fairways and the sand.
Well, it's like what I tell kids and try to express to them on when there's a job opportunity. You go to an interview. Say there are 5 guys that sit there with all the same qualifications, but one plays golf. And 9 times out of 10, the one that plays golf is going to get the job because it's the CEO or somebody wants a 4 or somebody that can hit the ball. You know, that's a recruiting technique they use. At most schools, some of the schools, business schools, golf is required. You got to take golf. So if you let a kid know what opportunities are there for them in golf by having golf as a tool of life, you'd be surprised how energized they get then, you know.
One of the things about golf that people don't realize is that at every major golf manufacturer, they need accountants, they need business people, they need CPAs, they need directors, they need engineers, they got research and development. From the course maintenance, there's just a long list of career opportunities in the game of golf. But if you go and walk in the door at the golf companies, there's not many folks that look like us. Simply because we just don't know that those opportunities exist. At the National Minority College Golf Championship, I used to kind of hold the industry accountable. Not a very popular position to take, but you know, I would ask folks, well, how come you don't have any people of color working in accounting or anywhere else? Well, we just can't find any qualified applicants. I just want to tell you what, I got 160 kids of color that play golf. And if you're serious about changing the face of the environment of your company, then why don't you come to my career fair and I'll have them served up for you on a platter and you can pick some out. And so what has happened is the fad has come and gone. And so one of the things that we're working on right now is with the HBCU presidents. We've made them very aware that they've missed the boat. And see, most of the colleges put all their money in football and basketball. And see, what they have to realize is that, A, golfers generally tend to have better GPAs. Your APR is going to be up higher. Your graduation rate is going to be higher. And so why won't you invest in the best thing you got? And so we presented to the HBCU presidents in Amelia Island a group with Mike Cooper, who is a Chicago native, who has headed up a group that's working with the Golf Diversity Initiative. And we just asked some very pointed questions and made some very serious requests of the black college presidents to kind of open their eyes and their ears to understanding what we're saying. We can get you some people employed. And ultimately, with that being the mission of the historically black colleges, then let's start paying attention. And so we've got a very solid initiative that we're working with literally as we speak to help educate the colleges and the college presidents on the value that golf presents.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a round of applause to our panel, Ms. Miljohn Aiken, Craig Bowen, Harry Gilliam, Pete McDaniel, and Mark Rolfing.